All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Craig.
Here.
Mr. Hayden.
Here.
Mr. Giuliano.
Here.
Mr. Nuss.
Here.
Ms. Van Zandt. Here. Mrs. Steele. Here. Mrs. Stahl. Here. Mrs. Whitty. Here. Mr. D'Agostino.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Would you please join me in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the school building and notice of said meeting sent to the New Jersey Herald and the Star Ledger.
The Sussex-Wantage Regional School District is a responsive, caring, child-centered community. Our mission is to educate each individual to be a confident, lifelong learner, and productive, responsible citizen by providing challenging opportunities in a safe environment through a partnership of families, schools, and communities.
At this time, we will move on to the report of the Superintendent of Schools.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by inviting Mr. Shores up to recognize the Sussex Middle School Students of the Month.
Good evening, Mr. Gall, Mr. D'Agostino, members of the Board of Education, and members of our audience tonight. It is with great pride that I stand before you tonight to introduce the Students of the Month. Every month I have the pleasure of meeting each of these individuals and gain insight into their hobbies, favorite subjects, and extracurricular activities that they participate in. Each of these students tonight have been highly recommended by their teachers. And as they introduce each student, I will provide a brief snapshot of the wonderful accolades that have helped them earn the Student of the Month. In 6th grade this month, the recipient is Mackenzie LaRue. When I sat with Mackenzie, she told me that her favorite classes were reading and writing. Mackenzie indicated that she has always enjoyed both of these content areas. In particular, she enjoys reading historical fiction. When Mackenzie gets older, she would like to pursue a career as a marine biologist. She has always enjoyed the water and believes that studying marine life and the interactions between different marine life in different systems would be a field that she would be interested in. Mackenzie enjoys playing basketball, running, and swimming. She participated on the SMS cross-country team and is looking to join the track team this spring. With regards to swimming, Mackenzie swims for the Sussex County YMCA and regularly competes throughout the winter. She's looking forward to pursuing her silver time in the 50-yard breaststroke. Mackenzie's teacher stated the following: she's a responsible, respectful student who always displays a positive attitude. Mackenzie strives to do her best and is always willing to assist others. She leads by example with hard work and enthusiasm. She also displays a positive attitude and excellent leadership skills. It is with great pride that I introduce Mackenzie as a 6th grade student.
Congratulations. This is for you.
Great job. In 7th grade this month, the recipient is Thomas Guthrie. When I sat with Thomas, he told me that his favorite class was art. Thomas stated that he likes all of the projects that they have worked on throughout the marking period, but especially working with plaster. During this unit, he worked on a lightsaber, which he was extremely proud of. When speaking with Thomas, he indicated that he would like to follow his passion for technology and hopefully work for Google one day. He is really interested in the company and all the applications that they have to assist in making life easier. Thomas enjoys baseball and collecting in his free time. He's a die-hard Yankee fan, and his current player is Aaron Judge. His current favorite player is Aaron Judge. When he is not watching the Yankees or going to games, he enjoys collecting model cars. Thomas's teacher stated the following: Thomas is a student who is always on task, works to the best of his ability, is willing to work with all students if needed, and always does the right thing, even if others around him may not be on task. He is an important role model to any classroom and a good influence on all is with great pride that I introduce Thomas as a 7th grade student.
Take this one. Congratulations.
In 8th grade this month, the recipient is Jacob Ginta. When I sat with Jacob, he told me that his favorite class was phys ed. If you were to see Jacob in any gym class, this would be quite evident, as he gives 110% in all of the activities. Jacob also enjoys language arts, where he's able to read books of his choosing and works on a variety of different writing pieces. When speaking with Jacob, he indicated that he would like to pursue a career as a basketball player, but if this does not work out, he would like to become a lawyer. He has always had an interest in helping others and finds the prospect of that career path very intriguing. When he is not on the basketball court playing for SMS, the recreation team, or his AAU team, Jacob can be found playing Fortnite or Y2K, a basketball video game, which I hear he is virtually unbeatable in. Jacob's teacher stated the following: he has a great ability to balance his school, sports, and social responsibilities. He is a kind person who respects his teachers and peers, showing a zest for life. He strives to complete his work and seeks support from teachers and peers throughout. As we say goodbye to Jacob at the end of the year, I can say that he has had a tremendous impact on his teachers and his peers along the way, and he will surely be missed. It is with great pride that I introduce Jacob as the 8th grade student of the month.
Congratulations. This is for you.
We just wanted to recognize make one more recognition in the audience. You may have, if you've attended board meetings before, may have seen or heard our former board member, Mrs. Fields, talk about how her congregation at church was identifying areas that they could help the community and schools in, and they focused on helping students with lunch debt. We have the pastor of the, pronouncing it correctly, Wesleyan Church, who we'd like to recognize. The board has before them a consideration for a donation that they'd like to make in a sizable amount to help alleviate Orange School student debt. So if you want to come on up.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Go slowly back. You can do it. I don't have to automatically.
We always invite you to stay for the board meeting. We love having folks, but if you chose that you said you didn't want to stay, now would be an opportune time to depart.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Huh? I know. I practiced all day.
Mr. Kettler, Mrs. Sparta, Mrs. Barbieri, it's nice to have you.
Aren't you so popular? The most popular thing in town.
So just to report out on a couple of committee meetings that we had, talk about some of the goings on in the district. So we met in community outreach, discussed the possibility of trying to fuse a relationship to a greater degree with the PTO, maybe host a movie or a game night, possibly doing candy bingo. Outreach committee would also like to engage students in either a mock BOE meeting or some shadowing experiences where students from, student council or other students who might be interested kind of join us for a board meeting. Take no official action, but get to participate in the democratic process. They'd also like us to put out to staff if there's anyone who's interested in volunteering to serve as a representative from each school on our community outreach meetings, kind of get the ideas that faculty and staff might have to assist in that area. We met in policy, had a couple of meetings, elicited some information from our nursing staff. Mrs. Fisher, who's a nurse at the Wantage School for a long time, is kind of spearheading You may read about it in the paper from time to time, kind of a county-wide movement trying to instill better health and nutrition in schools. And every school has, health and wellness policies, but our nursing staff would like to enhance those. In their judgment, they're recommending things like, including guidelines for classroom parties, nutritional snacks. They see an area of birthday celebrations as something they want to try to tackle. So some schools in the area are hosting, deciding upon one day per month to host all birthday celebrations. So that's something they've advocated for and are asking the board to look at. We also reviewed aspects of student discipline with the goal of enhancing student expectations. In particular, kind of setting the tone that you need to conduct yourself appropriately, so the board's trying to strengthen some of those policies associated with that, some of the cell phone aspects of student discipline. As you can imagine, the day and age when virtually every student has a device and interacts with social media, those topics become challenging, so there's some reconfiguration on a policy. We'll also have the second reading of our transgender policy. At the policy committee meeting, there was discussion at the time that the board wanted me to make note of possibility trying to transition, or the possibility of transitioning from videotaping board meetings to perhaps just posting audio. So that's something they wanted the whole board to kind of discuss, weigh in on. B&G committee meeting, Mr. Petrowski gave updates on converting Lawrence School's lighting system to LEDs. He's anticipating approximately $22,000 in rebates from New Jersey Clean Energy. There's been some work done on the solar panels out front. The company comes out, maintains those. They're not actually our solar panels. We've had over time, most recently a couple weeks ago, a bus, not our school bus, not associated with our school district, and no students on the bus, but try to navigate under a solar panel, clip the top of their bus. Fortunately no one was injured, and our protocols were followed. But we report that to the company who oversees the solar panels, and they're looking at adding a, what they call a height bar, if you will, like you would see going into a parking garage, as a visual deterrent to buses who may feel the need to try to turn around there. I believe it was a bus transporting a sports team from another school district, but again, no students were on the bus at the time. We met with the architect engineers to review some upcoming projects. In particular, you may have, if you've attended board meetings before, heard me talk about the trying to enhance the Lawrence School well water system. Not that there's anything wrong with the well water system, but trying to build upon the infrastructure that they have. And we had a great meeting. One of the challenges that we talked about in trying to devise a plan for any future enhancement of the system is how to maintain some degree of pressure if the power goes out. So one engineer had an idea. Apparently if you have a well in your house, you have a pressurized tank in the basement. They make giant ones of that, and he said that would maintain pressure even if you lost power for a finite period of time. So they're working on that. Curriculum special services also met. One area that we reviewed was the half-day professional development we had this past month, tied in with the nutritional goals of the nurse. Mrs. Fisher organized some presentations by community organizations as well as our own staff and how to instill those practices in the classroom in your instruction. Middle school talked about vertical articulation. Guidance counselors got to meet. Mrs. Wilson hosted some trainings on CPI, which is a technique we use in the district. Security guards, Mr. Gregory met with our security staff. I joined that meeting for some time. We talked about some current trends in school security and some ways we always constantly try to enhance that. And our bus drivers met to view some compliance videos. And that's all I have.
At this time, we will move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district.
That's all you, Bill.
Bill Gettner, 98 Emerald Road, Wantage.
try not to take up your entire evening. Before I start, I will comment, I based my presentation on your transgender policy from last year. I didn't get to read the new one until I got here, and it's basically just as bad. I had hoped that this board had put this disaster of proposed transgender policy to bed last year, but obviously not. The attorney even told you that it was not mandatory for this board to adopt the Department of Education's recommendations. Under our Constitution, every student has equal rights. No student can be denied their rights just so another student can have super rights. This board and any of its employees cannot place itself between a parent and their child. A person thinking they are another gender does not change their body's gender. When a male student enters a boys' restroom or locker room, he has a right to believe that everyone using that facility is also of the male gender. When a female student enters the girls' restroom or locker room, she has a right to believe that everyone using that facility is also the female gender. Obama and his administration did many things to destroy our country and to interject the government into what should have been family matters, thus destroying family values. This is why many people voted for President Trump. President Trump rescinded Obama's administration's actions concerning transgender rights. To quote from an article in the Herald last year, quote, the law which is designated to reinstitute federal imposed guidelines on transgender rights. This law must be thrown out as being unconstitutional. Besides which, how can a state impose federal guidelines if the federal guidelines have already been rescinded by the federal government? I don't normally wear a hat when I'm speaking before a group, but too many people have forgotten or have never learned our country's history. Even though I had served in the Air Force, this hat bears a World War II Army CBI insignia. That's China, Burma, India. My uncle served as a forward observer with the Chinese Nationalist Army. Working together, the Chinese Nationalists and the U.S. armies defeated the Japanese army. Then after the war, the communist sympathizers in our United States government allowed the communists to force the Chinese nationalists out and onto an island of Taiwan. Now we read about all the many atrocities occurring in China. Please remember, it was the communist sympathizers in our United States government who allowed the communists to take control of China. But now the battle lines are here in the USA, in New Jersey, and right here in Sussex County. The Second Amendment people have woken up and are starting to fight back. But what about the children? If you want to read the Socialist Communists, including our governor's playbook, I recommend that you obtain and read copies of the Communist Manufacturer by Karl Marx, or Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. First, subvert the children. Second, destroy the families. Third, destroy all religions. Fourth, destroy our Constitution, our government. Please do not adopt the proposed transgender policy. I respectfully submit that should you adopt this proposed transgender policy, you are active participants in steps 1 and 2. Thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Getler. Are there any other public comments?
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Diane Barberi. I co-chair the book fair, the Scholastic Book Fair, with Lucia Stevenson, who unfortunately cannot be here. So now, I have to read my notes. There's just way too much here. Just wanted to update everybody on our December fair. We had a profit of $6,937.13. As of now, we'll be able to give each library approximately $1,300 each to buy books for their libraries. The need-to-read gift certificates are still $10, and we're working on the distribution of them, so no, I don't have the numbers for each classroom yet. I also just wanted to say really quick, our book fair for December opens up on Thursdays. It's the first Thursday of the month. And this is the first time in 9 years our school was closed the day before for our setup. So
You did an outstanding job.
we were really pressed, and I just wanted to say really quick, we had a snow day on setup day. Fortunately, we were able to go in, thank you, Mr. Wall, to go in the day before on Wednesday and set up. I want to thank, Lucia and I want to thank a few people who really went above and beyond. They're not here, unfortunately, but Tom, Paul, and Bill from our maintenance department, they set up the tables, they helped move book carts, they just definitely did stuff that was not written in their day's agenda. Sarah and Johnny Moss helped set up, Jess Grace and Danny Maselli and Jen Pellucci all came out in pretty much our pajamas and set up the book fair. Mr. Gall, thank you for allowing us to go in the day before and on a closed day. We'd also like to thank Mr. Gregory, Mr. Schwartz, and again you, Mr. Gall, as well as your administration in all the schools. It is definitely, by far, without their help, we would never be able to get this book fair up and running. Twice a year we do it, twice a year we're in pestering everybody for names and classroom numbers, and without the help of the administration, we'd never get it done. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's it.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
to
you
do
for
that.
all
Thank
of
you,
this.
Mrs. Barbieri.
This is our pleasure, it really is. We have so much fun with this, and I also want to thank Mr. Twilliger too for his artwork. He does a lot of our artwork, so. But thank you again for always supporting the book fair.
Thank you so
And
much, I appreciate
thank
it.
the public, the rec department too. They did a lot for the tree lighting, and they do arts and crafts downstairs in the room. It's fun, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barbieri, for working so hard.
Are there any other public comments? All right, we will move on to board secretary certification, please.
Pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A-16.10C3, I certify that as of December 31st, 2019, no line item account has encumbrances and expenditures which in total exceed the line item appropriation in violation of NJAC 6A 23A-16.10.
All right, we do not need to go into executive session, so we'll move on to the presentation of agenda items.
For personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 25, noting that at this time, we're going to pull item number 14 for further review with our attorney.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you, discussion.
I saw on number 20, I'd like to point out about the substitute custodian rate of $13 an hour. We still haven't straightened that out with the substitute teachers. We had it on the agenda with substitute teachers for 3 different meetings. And this can't possibly be used as a foundation because it was all started with substitute teachers. At the rate of $13 an hour for a custodian, a regular sub rate currently is at $85 a day, which is $12.60 an hour. For a substitute that has a degree is at $90, which works out to $90 a day, which works out to $13.34 an hour. I'm not saying I don't think that $13 an hour for a substitute custodian is too much. I think that our other rates are too low. But it's tough to rely on a teacher that's in a classroom with kids to be making less really than a custodian, and I don't mean to make that lower, but we do entrust these people, whether they're coming in off the streets, whether they're a degree teacher, whether they've been here for 10 years, whether they've been retired, we're trusting them with our kids. So I really think that, with budget and everything else coming, that needs to be straight first.
Thank you, Mrs. Woody.
I have a question. What is it jumping from?
It says 11.
$11.
Right, $11.
I think that's a big jump. Especially with the budget the way
That is the rate to keep it consistent with, that's what High Point pays.
What does High Point pay their substitute teachers?
I think it's $100.
I don't know, we have that, I
Well,
think
that
that,
can't
I
be
think
a-
we
It was
Their
just,
90
argument.
at one point because CAP was a sub, so it was 90 at one point, so that's going back.
So what I'm saying is
2015,
we can't have
2014 was 90
argument.
because CAP was a sub.
for custodial versus teachers.
Should be the same for teachers. No, I agree with them. We'll have to look at that. If you want to be competitive in one, you have to be competitive in
I think
both.
the next budget cycle, we need to really look at that.
Absolutely. Anyone else have any thoughts on that or any other personnel? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Craig,
Yes.
Ms. Van Zandt,
Yes.
Mr. Hyden,
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano,
Yes, on all but 20.
is that an abstain or a no?
No.
No. Mr. Nuss,
A yes on all and a no, with the exception of a no for 20.
Mrs. Steele? Yes. Mrs. Stoll?
Yes, to everything but to no for 20.
Mrs. Whitty?
A yes for all with a no for 20.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The policy, I'd like to move items 1 through 5.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Ooh!
Shazam.
Fast tonight, boys.
Discussion. All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Van Zandt?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano,
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes, with the exception of 3, which is a no.
Mrs. Steele? Yes. Mrs. Stoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes, with an exception to number 3 being a no.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under finance, I'd like to move items 1 through 18.
Second.
So it's 1 through 18. Thank you. Discussion, please. All right, seeing none, roll call.
Ms. Van Zandt?
Yes.
Mrs. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes, and thank you again for the donation.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Giuliano,
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele? Yes. Mrs. Stoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under special services, I'd like to move items 1 through 15.
Looking for a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano,
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Zandt?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1, just noting that I believe in the packet you received, this June 4th, 20 trip to Land of Make-Believe for kindergarten. I believe in your packets it was listed as $15 for the student cost. It's entirety covered by the board. So board costs 15, students none.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Looking for a second.
Excuse me,
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry.
Mrs. Stahl. Discussion?
I have a little discussion on this. With the nursing situation, when we have trips, we have to send nurses also, right?
Depends, the nurse of the respective school makes a determination as to the classes going, do they need a nurse?
And if they do, I mean, we really have a hard enough time getting nurses. Are we doing good with that?
Yeah, I mean, in my time in the district, you know, whatever it's been, 12, 13 years, there are very few trips that we've had to cancel due to, you know, you required a nurse and the nurse wasn't available. So the nurses in the schools do their diligence in setting those up. And it's actually critically important that the teachers, when they book up the trips, they get that information to the nurse well in advance, otherwise the nurses get,
Right, but my concern there is we're missing one of those nurses for a while.
Yeah,
So-
thus far we haven't had a
I mean,
situation.
we were hiring a service to cover,
Yeah.
you know.
So the services haven't covered any of the trips this year, to my knowledge. It's always, the services are always utilized in the building. We have a sub-pool who, given enough time, cover the trip, or have covered the trips. And there's some flexibility there. Actually, I'm gonna correct myself, there was a pre-K trip that, to go apple picking. That was occurring right around the same times as, it got snowed out, I think, once or twice. So there's a lot of like give and take and flexibility in there where it's like, well, okay, you wanna go on that day, we can't do that day. Can you go on this day, because I have a sub-nurse who can go with you on that day, and then transportation can provide a bus that day, so there's a lot of, moving parts to that they line up.
Any other questions, discussion? All right, roll call please.
Mrs. Craig?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden? Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Kuren?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele? Yes. Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Right, we will move on to unfinished business. Does anyone on the board have any unfinished business they'd like to discuss?
Well,
Yes.
that's already, that wasn't it.
Yes, Mr. Hutton.
Sorry.
This past few months, I've made comments about us having to figure out what we're gonna do with regards to the budget coming up. And I really have only seen, on the weekly report, what's going on. I mean, we're looking at $700,000 cut in state aid. Not hearing anything from this board with regard to where we're gonna look to cut. So it's important to the taxpayers, the staff, and the students to really be looking deep into this. I said it months ago. Haven't heard a thing. Disappointing.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr.
Have we heard anything from the, the companies that offer the benefits,
The healthcare?
the healthcare?
And so, to Mr. Hyden's point, the anticipated reduction in state aid is, approximately $700,000, but it doesn't really tell the whole story. So the other things you take into account, contractual obligations and the health benefits cost, Mrs. Riker is getting some preliminary information about that, which we'll share with the board when we meet in our little budget groups. When we anticipate those starting early February.
Well, we administratively
Yeah.
need to get the budget to a point.
Well, that's the way it's always
Balances.
been. It always gets to that point where we start getting into the nitty-gritty come mid-February to the end of February, where then when we start having the conversations. But it's
Yes,
been
the
no
state
secret
aid,
that this is
I
coming.
think I put the details of the dates. The state aid won't be released until after the governor's address at the end of February, so we're
Isn't it normally
estimating
like
it.
March 3rd or March 2nd in that
Sometimes,
area that we
yeah.
normally get what we're getting hit with?
I think
and-
it's gonna be the last week of February, like February 27th.
Right, and then if you look at the agenda that we just all voted on, you see how many retirements, which then factors into it, which we could have more between now and when the budget's coming out. So this is all typical protocol that we get into February before we start getting into the true bones of what we gotta deal with.
The thing, and Mrs. Craig touched on it, is that we know that we're looking down the barrel of a gun. And it's gonna continue to go, that's why I feel that this year in particular and next year, we need to start a little bit earlier and look at, what the wants are and what the needs are and what the people of our community can afford. So that we can make decisions that are prudent and wait until February, we know how much stuff costs and I understand.
I know the curriculum has been looking at different things to, cut or reduce. That's been going on since months. We've been talking about that.
Well, it was my understanding that it was going on last year. When I sat in the meetings last year, when Mr. Gregory was doing his presentations, we were changing the entire dynamic of the wanted school. We were looking into what we could keep, what we could not, and this is in constant flux. We could end up having, and we saw it happen 2 years ago, where we ended up with 4 more retirements as we went into the budget cycle, which then changes our numbers, which then changes what Christina has to come up with. So that I do agree with Mr. Hayden, but we've all known this, that the next 6 years, I think we all gotta like pull up our bootstraps and realize that we're in for a hell of a ride. Point blank, I mean, we're looking at over the total, what the state's doing to us is over $7 million. So this, I don't think it's a secret. So though I agree, we gotta look at our needs and wants, I think we're looking at, it's in constant, my point being, it's in constant flux. Because we don't know the retirements we're getting. I mean, I personally, when I looked at the agenda, like my heart kinda sank, because we lost the retirements coming in. It was sickening, because those are the teachers that I've seen teach all my kids for, and I'm sure Mr. Hayden's in the same boat, for years. And it made my heart absolutely sink to see some of those teachers that but it's in constant flux, so we really can't do much until we know the
Until we know.
numbers and until we have the
Until we
final.
know admin too,
fallout.
the admin have to get their budgets together,
Right.
they haven't yet, so I don't know what the board can do right now.
And Mr. Hyden, you're the.
We've discussed this before, we know that the cuts are coming, that's one thing that's not in flux. It's happening, and we have to look, and we've discussed this before, which programs touch how many students, where we can tighten our belts, and to wait till 60 days before the budget gets put in to scramble to find out what we can cut. You know, we didn't know in the past that far in advance that we're gonna have this type of decline in the amount of money that we're getting from state aid. We know it's coming. So, yeah, everything's in flux, but we know we have to start tightening our belt.
Absolutely, and you're the chair of the budget committee, Mr. Hyden, so if you'd like to schedule a meeting, early February or
Mr.
something.
D'Agostino?
like that, yeah.
It's my experience that that's your job.
I don't
Well, the chair of
schedule
a
the
committee-
meetings.
Is something you can contact.
And I wasn't
Mr. Ball.
trying to be hostile, Mr. Hyden,
No,
I was just simply
Mr.
saying. that we
D'Agostino,
should-
I've mentioned at this open public meeting that we need to do something, and you as the president of the board need to lead us in that direction.
But
That's
if
all.
you're the
I'm not
chair of
being
the committee,
disrespectful.
can't you call a meeting, Mr. Hayden?
Um,
You're the chair of the
I
budget
resigned
committee.
as the chair of the budget committee. I haven't even discussed whether I wanted to be, this is my first meeting since being here. I'm resigning right now from the budget committee. And I also resigned from the negotiations committee.
That's great. Well, I'd like to take his position then on the budget committee, so if you consider that, Mr. President, I'd be
I will
happy.
consider it, thank you. Any other unfinished business that anybody would like to discuss? All right, we'll move on. I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitty, go ahead,
How
please.
are down with speak teachers?
So Mrs. Wilson has narrowed down the field to 2 candidates. We are evaluating how best to bring those candidates on board. Right now, we are looking to bring them on board as private contractors.
Is there any possibility of getting 2 part-timers or?
Yeah, that would be the other plan. In our,
I kind of figured out while we were talking, and I said like, 2 part-timers could cover more hours than 1 full-time person. And then we would, you know what I'm saying, and we kind of need to
Yeah.
catch
And
up.
we'll have
So,
benefit.
the,
And no benefits.
yeah,
So-
it's a similar idea with the private contractor. The 2 part-timers were the original conceived idea. But with the LLC, the private aspect of it, they're also not bound by the contract. So, theoretically, you wouldn't have contractual obligations to increase throughout the time unless they raise their rate and you want to continue to do business with them. One party has that lined up and is good to go, so to speak. The other party is working on that.
Actually, they turned in their paperwork.
Do they offer outside benefits, like when we talk with like a subcontractor, does that come from the outside in, or does that come from us? Does that make sense what I just said? Not really. Like if we're working as that we're gonna contract them, do we then have to include benefits, like if?
No, if you worked for a corporation, a
Right.
lot of these people were just individuals, but if you worked for a corporation for the nursing services that we're using, like the corporation
Right,
you
oh,
work for
right, like
might give
Ruthie,
you
okay,
Yeah.
I understand, I'm sorry.
as an employee.
I actually didn't even see that on the nurse's side.
Right, and if
That
you're
was
a
question.
private contractor, you're providing us
Right.
copies of your insurance certificates so that we know that you have the appropriate coverage to be in our right
And I knew that thinking of the nursing, but not going there, I apologize, that was kind of a stupid question, but thank you.
Those
Is
two
there-
questions, Mrs. Craig. Very often my answers are stupid, and I apologize.
No, but I knew it because Ruth Gilmore is one of our nurses, so I knew that, but I don't know why I didn't connect on the speech thing, but anywho.
All right. Any other unfinished business? Mrs. Riker, would you be able to look into High Point's rates for subs and just let us know in the weekly rundown or something where
Yeah, I
they're.
think that that's already been
It's been
provided
shared.
to the board in
Yeah,
the
we'll have
past.
to look at, yeah. We just want to make sure we're competitive.
We can put it out, Ken.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Does anyone have any new business? All right, I just wanted to touch on what Mr. Gall said earlier about the mock board meeting. Some schools are doing where they invite the sixth graders, they interview for roles of board members. So all 9 of us plus superintendent, BA, and they basically see what the role is, what we do, and then they come to one board meeting during the course of the year, and we have an agenda that they could, social media they discuss, and the dangers of social media or relevant topics to their age. And then they do vote, but it's obviously not an official vote, so the board member has to say, I agree, or I disagree, I vote no, or if they vote no, I disagree, I vote yes. But it seemed like a really great community thing, and it could be a good way to get the students involved. We discussed it in community outreach. The schools that I asked about it said it took about four weeks to do the interview process, to explain it to the students. And we kind of feel maybe it's a way to let them bring ideas to the table and then, try to see it through by the time they graduate. So, if anybody has any thoughts on that outside the community outreach committee.
Was there an idea that, did we discuss we were going to put Mr. Schwartz in charge of that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I said.
Would that be an extra meeting or during the regular meeting?
We could do it during a regular meeting is what they did. If the board would like, we could also, do a separate meeting where it's more just about the kids and, a community event type thing. So it's not as official. We could discuss the exact, details of it, but that's one thing. And then the other was about inviting a student rep, potentially, maybe the president of the student council to come and just report on sports, whatever's going on in the schools, the sports teams won, lost, concerns the students have, questions they have.
You get to hear from another Craig person though.
What is it? Say the what?
I said you'll get to hear from another Craig person.
Is it? Okay.
Skylar.
Okay. And just try to keep the student body involved that way. So stuff for the board to consider.
Would that be
obviously-
monthly? Or would
That'd
that just be?
Yeah, that would be every month, and obviously it's hard, it'd probably be hard, for the same student maybe to make it every month so we could discuss.
You do the class president as well.
Mhm.
class
That's what I was
president,
thinking.
yeah. Or maybe
Like even if you
something-
did like a dual role,
Yeah.
so that way if one couldn't be here, like it wasn't without, kind of thing, but that would be cool. Yeah, that'd be
Member of the,
awesome.
the track team or something,
Yeah.
something like that,
That'd be
yeah.
awesome. I think it's awesome, gets involved.
Anybody else have any new business? All right, we'll move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district.
Just stand here and take the time. Bill Gedrick in Wantage. Last year, with the student enrollments and the allocation percentages out of Trenton, us Wantage taxpayers really got hammered. The only benefit we got out of it is we got a lesser percentage of High Point. But we really got hammered by Sussex-Wantage. Please sharpen your pencils. And then sharpen them again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gettler. Any other comments? All right, we do not need to go into executive session, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.